and yes, even a little psychoanalysis. As we are once again together, you and I. We are once again together, you and I. And the subject matter is going to be about Chad Daybell's recent appeal. And I just want to sing something briefly. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna make me go all out up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna make me act a fool up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna make me lose my cool up in here, up in here. Hey folks, when I heard about it, I'll tell you what, there was like these little hairs on the back of my dang neck stood straight up. That damn asshole! How in the hell? What the hell's he think he's doing? Oh, I know. It's just formality, isn't it? Isn't it just formality? So these victims' family members can be on a damn seesaw for the rest of their damn life? Huh? Well, I've got some questions before I get into it, and I'm going to put them on the record, and then we're going to go on, and I'm going to hope that I don't lose my cool again and again and again. Number one, did Chad tell John Pryor that he did not want to present any mitigation? Number two, did Pryor leave out mitigation evidence on purpose? Number three, did the judge and the state there, did they do their due diligence? Because folks, let's just back up a little bit. If you think about it, during the death penalty phase, right? Did anybody see Emma come in there and get up on the stand and say, please, don't, you need to have some mercy on my daddy? Did you see anybody come in to say anything in mitigation? And in fact, the judge, you can go back and re-listen to it, during that penalty phase, at the end of it all, he asked Chad Daybell, he said, this could be your opportunity to allocute, which would help in what? Mitigation. We're going to go into that. We're going to remind ourselves what we probably already know. But how about this? Question 4. Chad never spoke at the sentencing. And, that was his decision to make, which goes back to number 1. Did he tell John Pryor? Did he? Did he tell John Pryor, I don't want to do anything? I don't want to allocute. I don't want my kids in here. I don't want my former colleagues or anybody to come in here in mitigation for me. Number 5, Pryor did a closing at the sentencing, and the only thing he said in what you would consider mitigation would be where he blamed Alex and Lori. This trajectory. If Chad would have never met Lori and Alex, none of this shit would have ever happened. Give me a break. Give me a break. So those are important questions. Hello, Mary Sadler. Hello, Just Me. Hi, the Daily Book Dose. I Live for Now. Fancy Nancy, thank you for being here. Tina Reddington, Lena Howery, Mary Sadler, Moonlight View, Kathy Mama Bear, hello. All right, y'all. So I listened to it. I listened to that Zoom hearing and all of that. And I want to go over all this so it'll make more sense. Y'all know it's all about thinking. Think about it. Understand it a little bit better. Instead of somebody coming on a YouTube channel and say, hey, guess what? His new appellate attorneys want an extension of time because they say there's so much voluminous stuff that it would be impossible to meet the statutory deadlines. And there you go. But it goes to this news, y'all. His new attorney is already saying ineffective assistance of counsel. Okay? If you go back and look at the Hussey's appellate reasons, not one time in any of her appellate reasons there is it stating anything about ineffective assistance of counsel. So, would the state know that John Pryor was not going to present any mitigation whatsoever and be okay with that? Was there some kind of Instruction? Huh? Well, let's start off with the Idaho statute. When it comes to inquiry into a new counsel, and this is Title 19, Criminal Procedure, Chapter 27, 19-2720. Now, just bear with me. We'll get to more layman stuff and all of that. But after the imposition of the sentence of death, this is coming right out of code, the trial judge should advise the defendant that upon a particularized showing that there is a reasonable basis to litigate a claim of ineffective assistance of trial counsel, new counsel may be appointed to represent the defendant to pursue such a claim in a post-conviction proceeding. If no such request is made, the trial judge shall certify of record that there are no facts that have come to the court's attention upon which such a claim could reasonably be based, or alternatively, the court may appoint new counsel. No deficiency in the application of the procedure described herein shall be grounds for relief from a judge of conviction or from a sentence. So if you go and you listen to the Zoom thing about Chad's new attorney there talk about he needs more time and stuff, Judge Boyce said, I don't have to rule on any of this extension. I don't have to do it, but y'all can file briefs. He's talking about the state, Lindsay Blake. She said, well, yes, we intend to file this brief and all of that. So the whole decision in and of itself could absolutely be moot. The judge might say no, right? But here's what I'm wondering about, because, you know, we take examples from other cases. I know this is a case out of Arizona with Jodi Arias. Some of y'all remember that trial. When it came to the death penalty aspect of it, she got up there. Remember, some of y'all, she got up there and she was showing that she wanted to make domestic violence t-shirts, and she showed them her art, and she told them, please don't kill me, basically, and all that. And then they couldn't make a decision on it. The judge ended up giving her life in prison. So Jodi Arias absolutely did whatever she had to do, is get up there all meek and sweet so she could get out of getting the death penalty. Chad Daybell didn't do none of that. None whatsoever. Right, Saltino and Chino. Hello there, Regina Carter. The truth hurts. He probably doesn't feel good to talk. Well, I'll tell you, when it came down to it in that death penalty, you know, the phase there, he'd already been convicted of it was just whether or not he was going to get the death penalty or not. So for him not to allocute, for John Pryor not to get any of his family members or anyone. Y'all remember old KJ talking about it before the whole court hearing there? I was like, yeah, he's going to get his kids. Each one of them's going to get up there and say, please don't kill my daddy. None of them did. Nobody went up there to take up for Chad in any form of mitigation at all. Now, there's a pre-sentence report that the judge could look at. The fact, one example being Chad Daybell had never been in trouble before, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is this was his opportunity to get to the jury and say, this is the reason you shouldn't give me the death penalty. So if Chin requested that there be no mitigation, what I'm fixing to read to you is a moot point. But what if he didn't ever say nothing and John Pryor just, could it have been ineffective assistance of counsel, y'all? How many times during the trial we were saying John Pryor's trying to do this? He's trying to make it look like he's trying to get out of it. Y'all remember when he did that? And the judge said, no, you've been on this for all these years. You had the benefit of going to the Hussey's trial there, seeing what the state had and all of that. So John Pryor had to continue. But this has to do, if you look at all the behaviors of John Pryor through the whole trial, pre-trial and all, it really comes down to, why didn't John Pryor present any mitigation? And this is important because I pulled the jury instructions for Chad Daybell's trial, and this will show you definitively how important mitigation is. This is Idaho Jury Instructions 1717, mitigation, okay? A mitigating factor is any factor circumstances relating to the crime or to the defendant's state of mind or condition at the time of crime, or his character, background, or record that tends to suggest that a sentence other than death should be imposed. Now let's stop there for a minute. Was there any talk in the death penalty phase of Chad Daybell's character in a good light? Was there any talk at all from John Pryor at all about his background or his record? He did bring up that he would have never done this if Lori wouldn't have spread her legs, and Alex and all of that. A mitigating factor does not have to constitute a defense or excuse or justification for the crime, nor does it even have to reduce the degree of the defendant's blame for the crime. In that regard, my instructions given at the end of the trial that you were not to allow sympathy for the defendant to enter your deliberations do not apply at this sentencing proceeding. Mitigating factors may include any facts or circumstances that inspire sympathy, compassion, or mercy for the defendant. Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't see any of it, and even if somebody would have come in there to try to get some sympathy for that damn asshole, he had no freaking sympathy or compassion or mercy on his damn victims. He's a damn serial killer. Pure and simple. I don't have to say alleged anymore. He is a freaking killer. And if he's trying to get out of this by saying that John Pryor was not doing his job or whatever, he should have damn said something to him at the time. So that was exactly the instructions that the jurors got in the penalty phase of Chad Daybell's penalty phase of his post-conviction. Also, there was also a jury, during jury deliberations, here was an instruction, which was 1718. If you unanimously find that the state has proven the existence of statutory aggravating factor, at least one, and they proved more than one. Y'all remember it? You murder for money. It was especially heinous and cruel and all that. Well, they proved at least one, but they had more, right? It says that then you must so indicate on the verdict form. You must also then consider whether any mitigating circumstances exist that make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. So, I mean, let's just stop a minute and think about that. This isn't supposed to, mitigation isn't about making it look like he was less of a player in it, that he was less evil and diabolical than he was. It just is supposed to show that, you know, there was mitigating circumstances, and I guess John Pryor kind of brought it up a little bit by saying, well, if he wouldn't have never got with that damn hooker, none of this would have ever happened. Which, you know, that he did not present any mitigation. And Chad Daybell didn't allocute. But that was their decision to make. Pure and simple. That's what pisses me off about this. I just knew they were going to try to do this about ineffective assistance of counsel. And this new appellate lawyer, he obviously has got bigger fish to fry. He can't even get through the freaking discovery or transcripts or anything to even meet that statutory requirement of 90 days. He wants an extension. But guess what, y'all? The only way he's going to get an extension if it's just totally improbable, impossible. And it really is up to the Supreme Court of Idaho to decide whether this guy, who's got another attorney with him, can handle it. Ultimately, it just comes down to common sense, y'all. If John Pryor or any defense attorney decided, this is a lost cause, I'm going to do the best I can do, but at the end, if he gets convicted and we go through the penalty phase, I'm not going to present any mitigation, and then he'll have an appealable issue there. It really comes down to the state and the judge doing their due diligence. They had to make sure throughout all of this. I mean, there were times pre-trial where the state was like, John Pryor wants to do this, and we just want it on the record that if he's going to do this, that he can't use ineffective assistance of counsel. Do y'all remember that? Remember when John Pryor was saying he was going to leave the case, and then he said on the record, right there in court, that it was not ineffective assistance of counsel, that, you know, his client wanted him to stay on. So it's on the record on that, at least till that point. But then again, mitigation that he should have done was already at the end after post-conviction. And folks, believe it or not, that is an appellate issue, you know, depending on whether Chad said, I don't want to bring my kids in here. I don't want to allocute. I don't want any of my colleagues coming in saying, yes, Chad was a really good grave digger. I mean, obviously, that'd be the last person that would come in for mitigation purposes when a jury member's sitting over there going, you damn Skippy, he's a good damn grave digger. He dug those children's graves and put them in there after murdering them. But back to this and how important mitigation is in all of this. If you find that all mitigating circumstances are sufficiently compelling, there are no mitigating circumstances that John Pryor. Y'all, anyone want to put it in the comments? I don't remember anything other than he was on the trajectory of Chad Daybell's life. If he'd have never got with the hussy and Alex there, none of this would have ever happened. That is not mitigation. That is speculation. Because make no mistake, Chad Daybell had that evil damn seed in him all along. And if he wouldn't have done it with the hussy, he'd have found somebody else to do it with. So if you find that all mitigating circumstances are sufficiently compelling to make the imposition of the death penalty unjust, or you cannot unanimously agree on that issue, then the defendant will be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is the actual jury instruction that this death penalty phase these jurors had to look at. And so if no mitigation is there, they can't, that just doesn't apply. You know, it just doesn't. Also, if you find that all mitigating circumstances do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust, then the defendant will be sentenced to death. Well, what about no mitigation? What about there was nobody that came in on behalf of Chad Daybell? Chad Daybell himself didn't say anything. You know, he could have gotten up there and, you know, as nasty as he is, with his little itty bitty gherkin and his little itty bitty peanut-sized balls, and said, I was wrong, I was pussy whooped, I was doing it because that damn hooker had me going, or anything. But he didn't. It's almost like he was waiting. Well, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want none of my kids or colleagues coming in because, you know, this is just one probation. This is the way it's meant to be. I came here from another planet because I was supposed to murder these people. Give me a break. Just me, says Judge Boyce, protected this case, so I don't see how they can. Hello, Michelle Flanagan. Saltino Winchino says, I believe Garth and Emma both lied about specific events and attempt to create doubt about what Chud did. Well, I believe that too, Saltino Winchino. Why didn't they get perjury? Because anybody, you know, we're talking about serious death penalty stuff here. And children are going to get on the stand. Family members are going to get on the stand and do whatever they can. And a jury member is going to be able to see right through that shit. But they've got to live with it, right? They've got to live with it. Let them. If they, you know, most of these people anyway, right? They don't have anything good to say about the government unless they're sucking the titty of the government. They have no respect for authority. You know, they pull that card whenever it's convenient for them. It's ridiculous. Hello, Beach Lady. Leanne Forsberg. Hello. And the reason I'm reading this strictly from the jury instructions is to make you, y'all probably already know this, but just for you to understand, and I'm learning too, that mitigation is very important to present, specifically in a death penalty case, because there's a separate trial phase of it. It's so important. And the question goes back again, why? Why didn't John Pryor present any mitigation? And it'll be great if we find out, and we will, that Chad didn't want it. Y'all remember Lori? She didn't want Archie and Thomas there. She didn't want them to lay hands on Chad Daybell for anything. She got all upset about his crappy, stupid books that Archie talked about. She made the conscious decision not to do that, but at least the hussy had enough hair on her, to get up and talk her crazy stuff at the end to allocute. Chad Daybell ain't got no hair on his balls to do such a thing. So here we go, y'all. If you find that all mitigating circumstances do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust, then the defendant will be sentenced to death. You must each decide for yourself whether all mitigating circumstances presented when weighed against each statutory aggravating circumstances proven by the state are sufficiently compelling to make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. Any finding by you that the mitigating circumstances do or do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust must be unanimous. But you do not have to unanimously agree upon what mitigating circumstances exist. In other words, you have the aggravating factors, and they were heavy as hell for Chad Daybell. And what was supposed to happen was mitigation was put in that, and I don't give a damn how many people came in the courtroom to say Chad Daybell was a good guy. He'd never been in trouble. His kids crying their eyes out on the stand to say, please don't kill my daddy. He's been a good daddy all these years. He's done a great job brainwashing us and all that shit. The bottom line is that there was supposed to be a weighing out issue there. But folks, with no mitigation that I see, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it. Not from Chad, obviously. And there was no one that came in on his behalf. How are you supposed to do that jury instruction? Perhaps John Pryor really did know what he was doing. Maybe there was no appellate issues, right? And he had to create them. I mean, that's just a theory, but it's still, to me, ridiculous. It's typical for the appeals process in capital cases to go on for years. And like I said in the comments before I started this stream, I don't usually mess with appellate issues. It just goes on and on and on. And I feel deep in my heart for the victims' family members that's got to deal with this shit for the rest of their life. It's just ridiculous. My advice is to just let it go. Let it go. Don't even go there, because every time you do, any victim's family member is just going to disrupt their healing process. We all knew that whether he got life in prison or death penalty, there were going to be appeals just as the hussy had them. But it says they often reach the U.S. Supreme Court before an inmate is ultimately put to death. Well, folks, Idaho has not enforced their death penalty statutes so long that they might as well just give all these damn assholes life in prison, because they're not going to put them to death. Maybe it is better to be on death row where they get, 23 hours a day, and then they go out for 1 hour. By the way, I heard, and I may be wrong, that Chad Daybell don't like how he's being treated in prison. Well, I've got some advice for Chad Daybell. He needs to bend over, grab his ankles, and get ready for Bubba. He needs to go ahead, grease it up, get ready for it, because these damn prison people, these inmates, even on death row, they ain't gonna like the damn chin. They're not gonna like him. What kind of treatment does Chad Daybell deserve? What kind of treatment does Chad deserve? I say it twice because he don't deserve shit. He don't deserve any good treatment. And I hope he gets constipated by them freaking sack lunches for the rest of his days. That's what he deserves. And for him to say, if it's true, that he's not being treated properly in prison, well, he should have thought of that before that damn nasty, slimy hooker spread her legs and said, oh, Chad, help me kill the children. You need to kill your wife. Give me a break. Rebecca Helt says, yes, death penalty is the answer. He deserves nothing. So anyway, the imposition of the death sentence is followed by a mandatory post-conviction review, and the defendants are able to pursue an appeal after the filing of the death warrant. And that's what's happened. And here's, just to kind of sum up, y'all, here's what we know about the death penalty in Idaho. Executions are relatively rare in Idaho. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, there's only been 3 executions carried out since 1976, with the U.S. Supreme Court reinstating capital punishment. The first was in 1994, followed by 2 others in 2011 and 2012. So the last death penalty that was given out there in Idaho, and they actually enforced it, was in 2012. To put this in context, Texas has put to death 580 inmates within the time frame. Only a handful of the 27 states where the death penalty remains legal has carried out as few executions as Idaho, which is Kentucky, Montana, and Pennsylvania. Additionally, Idaho's death row housed just 8 inmates prior to Daybell's sentence, according to the Idaho Department of Corrections. In Idaho, defendants can appeal a death sentence after a death warrant is filed. The appeal process includes the following steps. Legal or factual challenges within 42 days of the judgment. Defendants must file any legal or factual challenge they know or should know. Ineffective assistance of appellate counsel within 42 days of the Idaho Supreme Court's final remitter. Defendants must file any claims of ineffective assistance of appellate counsel. So we're not talking about what's come up now is not this attorney that's been assigned to Chad in his appellate appeals. That hasn't been stated yet, but you can be damn sure they're going to pull out all the stops. Right now, it's ineffective assistance of counsel on John Pryor, or that's the vein in which they're trying to go right now. What other recourse do they have? What other thing? Other than 404B evidence there of Arizona, which that wouldn't really, I mean, that showed a pattern, and that's why it was used in his trial. But they, just as John Pryor said in the trial, Chad was never charged in Arizona. So it's just, to me, the only thing that they can do is ineffective assistance of counsel. Within 42 days of the Idaho Supreme Court's final remitter, defendants must file any claim of ineffective assistance of appellate counsel, which I already said. The Idaho Supreme Court automatically reviews death penalty cases, which is a separate process from the appeal. And what they do is they look at more the technical aspects. They don't look at what the state did, what the defense did per se. They're looking at the way that the laws were applied. The court will consider the punishment and any errors raised in the appeal. When considering the evidence, the court will determine if it was imposed due to passion, prejudice, or other arbitrary factors. In other words, this process will look at perhaps the media influence on it all. The way that, this case was it was so hard for evidence to be admitted, discovery in this trial to be put in this trial, because it would have been impossible to keep it from inflaming anybody. They had to show the autopsy photos. I don't know if the judge took all the photos and took out the ones that were just the most graphic, but prejudice would be nearly impossible for anyone to, in terms of discovery. It's just really crazy. But anyway, the court will also consider whether the evidence supports the jury's or judge's findings of a statutory aggravating circumstance. After reviewing the case, the judges can affirm the conviction and sentence, or reverse the conviction, or reverse the death sentence. So ultimately, if we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, y'all, the worst that could happen is that he would have his death penalty sentence overturned to life in prison. It wouldn't be he'd get another trial. I don't think. It really comes down to any defense attorney could say, well, we're screwed. I'm doing the best I can, but we're screwed, and I've got to figure out a way to put an appellate issue on the books. And then, of course, you have to look at Lindsay Blake and them over at the table over there, and they're probably thinking to themselves, why isn't Emma coming in here to testify in this penalty phase? Why isn't Garth or the rest of the children? Why isn't any of the colleagues? Why isn't Chad telling the jury, I have a brain defect or anything? The state had to do their due diligence along with the Judge Boyce, and that's where I rest on that. In that Judge Boyce had to have known that some of these issues would probably come up because of the way John Pryor's been maneuvering himself strategically in his defense. I mean, this goes back again, y'all, that back when he wanted to leave, Judge Boyce made him put it on the record that it wasn't ineffective assistance of counsel. Since it was post-conviction relief, they are not appealing the actual conviction, just the sentence. Well, thank you for clarifying that, Kathy Mama Bear. The autopsy photos didn't bother Chad at all. Didn't bother Chad at all. Okay, I see. Pryor not even preparing any point of appeal for new lawyers was low down. Well, I was watching that Zoom hearing with his new appellate lawyer, Donna Donald, and he said that, there was some things that John Pryor didn't do. And could that be brought up? Ineffective assistance of counsel. I mean, I think it has to narrow down on what happened post-conviction in terms of what was presented in mitigation for Chad Daybell. We're not talking about John Pryor didn't do something to prepare the appellate lawyer from there. I think it really had to do with the whole issue. It goes back to it, y'all. If Judge Boyce entertains this, if he gives this new appellate lawyer more time, and there's going to come a point where it's going to be online what the state's response to all this. Their response is, we don't want to go past the statutory limit that's set in Idaho, and this is the reason why, but his appellate lawyer, Chad Daybell's appellate lawyer, is supposed to prove why that he deserves to have an extension, and it really comes down to it would be impossible. He's got to prove that. It's impossible for him to get through all those terabytes of all those transcripts, of all those legal documents and everything like that. There's just no way humanly possible. And so, it'll be looked at by the Idaho Supreme Court. Judge Boyce has to first make a decision on whether he's even going to entertain them having that extension, much less their reasoning going past that. So, yeah, John Pryor, it wouldn't have been hard, Kathy Mama Bear, for John Pryor to get Chad's children in there on the stand during the penalty phase. This goes back to maybe, this is just speculation, Chad Daybell didn't want to put his kids through it anymore, although he didn't have a problem putting them on the stand to lie in front of everybody. Yeah, this terabyte thing, Fancy Nancy's, this is what Lola Ho's lawyer in Arizona is saying, terabytes, right? And they gave into that, right? They put it off even more. Yeah, Fancy Nancy, I think John Pryor He absolutely, all he was thinking about is getting that damn house sold, just brushing himself off and getting back to his whiskey flask, pretty much. So, what do y'all think? I mean, it really comes back to those questions, y'all. We didn't think nothing. I thought about it in the moment. I was like, why? It would have been nice to hear Emma and Garth and them go on the stand during the penalty phase and say, please don't kill my daddy and all this, after they lied on the stand earlier. Or anybody who would have stepped up for Chad Daybell. It couldn't be that his children were unwilling to go on there on the stand and try to save their dad's life from getting death. He must have stopped it. And if he stopped it, or John Pryor stopped it because he had been told by Chad Daybell to stop it, what if Chad Daybell says, I got the advice from my attorney not to have my kids come on the stand. I got the advice from John Pryor not to allocute. That would be a whole different story. This is probably not a popular opinion, but in my opinion would be worse punishment for Chad. Put him in Gen Pop. Right. Well, either way it goes. Kathy, as far as the history of Idaho's death row there, they still got people on death row that are been there 30, 40 years. So, it is what it is. What's the use in having a death penalty on your books there if you're not willing to see it through? I understand that it's at least 20 years of appeals and stuff before somebody gets executed in any state that has the death penalty. I understand that. It's not like you get convicted and then they go and they lethal inject you. I understand they gotta make sure. They gotta look at all of the, everything of the whole trial there. The conviction and all, pre-trial, the whole 9 yards. They got to make sure that it stands up to scrutiny. I guess a good question is, did Judge Boyce, did he do this well enough? And I just believe he did. I believe that was on his mind throughout this whole process. And I think it's on his mind now. For him to give an extension, Chad's new appellate lawyer would have to, in his motion, explain why it's impossible. I guess any appellate attorney could say this is a very voluminous case and I just ain't got the manpower and, and all that, but that can't be the excuse. It's 90 days. 90 days, that's 3 whole months. I understand these appellate lawyers he said he had 5 other capital cases he had to deal with on an appellate level. So I get it. And he also talked about that they were short an attorney as well. But I think it'll, in my view, when it is filed, and I'll get to see it, Lindsay Blake's response, the state of Idaho's response there, the prosecuting team's response to all of this, they've got to say no. They've got to say no, there shouldn't be an extension. Not because they want to make the appellate lawyers' job harder on them. It's because this is written into Idaho statute, and that's what the state is going to stand behind. If the judge rules differently, it doesn't mean the state is lost. If Judge Boyce says, yes, I'm going to give you some more time, doesn't mean anybody's lost. Doesn't mean there's any validity in this bullshit about ineffective assistance of counsel. And by the way, in that hearing, the state did say that they needed to file a motion to get interested parties on the record, i.e. they're going to have to go back and talk to John Pryor. They're going to have to proffer him or whatever. They're going to have to talk to him, get it on the record. Why, John Pryor, didn't you call in Emma or Garth or any of them or Chad's colleagues? Or why didn't you talk more in your closing in the death penalty phase about mitigating factors? Because he didn't. He didn't say a whole lot. He basically just put it off on the hooker and her lame brain Alex brother there. Kathy Mama Bear says, my heart went out to Boyce, Lindsay, and Rob. They all look so tired and over it. Oh, I'll tell you what, Judge Boyce, you know, he did an excellent job in all this. We all had a issue here and there during pre-trial and all this when they severed the cases, change of venue and all that. It was an absolutely complex case. But, you know, that can't be the only reason why they get an extension, because they're using in their language, it would be impossible. And I just don't think that it's impossible. Alpha Fem X-Teen says he's going to use the excuse that he tried to get out of it. Remember at the last minute? And Rob Wood's face today, he grinned at times. Well, Alpha Fem X-Teen, if you'll go back and listen to that hearing where John Pryor wanted to leave, Judge Boyce specifically asked him, you are not asserting ineffective assistance of counsel, are you? And John Pryor said no. So I'm not concerned about that hearing where he was trying to leave. I don't, because it was put on the record. Judge Boyce knew, you know, that this was a tactic by John Pryor. I don't have any more money. I can't do this. Well, he sure as hell, he did a halfway decent job for that damn asshole who didn't have a freaking anything to get his ass out of trouble. He did a good job, I thought, considering what he had to deal with. He brought in experts, his expert witnesses. He, you know, Chad didn't want to testify. Oh, well, that wasn't supposed to be used against him. That's in the jury instructions. You know, the juror members did have to see, and I know they had to have known that Emma and Garth there, and Emma's husband there, were lying in certain aspects of it. It's just interesting that Emma and Garth, the children of Tammy there, didn't say anything in their testimony about Tammy's cough. But Emma's husband did. I'll go back to my skit. He said that on the stand because he wants to make sure he can still get him some from his wife. I'm telling you. The Utah Supreme Court has overturned the death sentence of Doug Lovell over discussion of religion in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the courtroom, July 2024. Well, that's Utah, but I understand why you're posting that, and I appreciate that little bit of info. The bottom line is that there was never, in my view, any discrimination whatsoever. In fact, in Lori's trial and in Chad's, it was all pretty much said, either through Rob Wood or Lindsey Blank, it don't matter what you believe. It's what you do. And so, you know, I don't see, you know, Utah speaks for itself. Don't you agree? I mean, you know, really. Jurors that were interviewed said that they thought Emma and Garth were less than credible. Right, Kathy Mama Bear. But, I mean, come on, like, common sense, you know. I mean, I'm looking at you. If one of my sons or Wayne, which you know it would never happen, but they were facing the death penalty, I don't know, y'all. I mean, I know I should, if I'm going to take that, you know, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, it'd be so hard for me, y'all. It would, because I would be so, that'd be my flesh talking right there. I wouldn't want anything to happen to my family. So, and am I saying that they should give the kids a pass? No. What I am saying is that we've seen it time and time again, y'all, in other trials, other situations. I think there was a case that was merely an accessory, says Q. Just imagine, had Chad spilled the beans, there's no way they would have sentenced him to death. Great point, Q. I mean, Chad Daybell could have come up there in the penalty phase there And he could have allocated, and he could have said, and y'all, this is just giving him the benefit of the doubt. For all I don't know. He could have ended up being as wacky as Lolo in her freaking allocution, talking about, there was no murder. This could have been suicide or something to that effect. There was no murder. Chad could have got up there and said the same shit. He could have got up there, I'm telling you, I was told beyond the veil that I had to do this. These demons were inside of the children and Tammy. I would have never taken them life, but I was doing what my religion expected of me. No. He was doing what Satan's, Lucifer, evil, diabolical devil wanted him to do. Because there ain't no damn Jesus or God or Holy Spirit in any of it. That's what I'm talking about. He could have said, I was an accessory. They asked me for help after, and I helped them. Well, Q, post-conviction. The last thing that anybody post-conviction who's been convicted of all those first-degree murders and conspiracy to commit murder, the last thing they need to do, because the jury's already adjudicated them guilty, get up there and try to relitigate it. This is a time for remorse. This is a time for, I was so blinded. I just didn't know I was doing wrong. I really thought I was doing right, but now I realize that it was all just a terrible, evil blindness, and I hate myself, and I wish I'd have never done this to my beautiful wife Tammy and those precious children. It just kills me. I don't want to live anymore. So if you give me death, I deserve it. But I'm just saying, I just was so blinded. I was just so blinded. Anything. But he didn't. He didn't. Guilt phase could have been a time for that. Right, Q. He could have took the stand. He didn't have enough little itty-bitty pubic hairs on them tiny little nutsack of his to get up there, and he didn't have a problem. He didn't have a problem telling Lori and all these stupid-ass cult members that these people had zombies and demons in them. He didn't have a problem talking about his stupid-ass blessings. He didn't have a problem being the freaking one that was doing all this. But he wants to stay silent. Now, what's going on in his head about that, huh? Oh, this is persecution. I'm going to compare myself to other spiritual people like Jesus or something. They were persecuted, and Jesus was nailed to the cross and killed by his own people, and this is expected. I am a martyr. No, I'll tell you what Chad Daybell is. He's a freaking serial killer. He's a sling blade. Give me some taters. Give me some taters. Well, I'll tell you what he's going to get in prison. He's going to get that freaking damn instant shit that he's going to have to let it dry out a little bit, make it into a little bitty ball, stick under his fucking ass. How about that? How about that? We don't know what he found out. God bless you, dear KJ, says Lily Jahan. He did get death. But all he's getting is death row. He's not going to get an injection. He's not going to get a firing squad. He knows he's not. And I just wonder how long it's going to take for that saggy ass chin of his to get down here, and the next thing you know, he is deader than a doornail being carried out in a pine box. He's not getting treated properly on death row. What does he want? What does he want? What, does he want some more followers on the death row there? There ain't that many in the death the death row pod there. He's only getting out 1 hour a day out of 23. He only has an hour to go in there and try to brainwash these damn assholes. that all need to go ahead, get your appeals, do that. That shouldn't last no more than 20 years. Alpha Fib says he should be glad he isn't in Arizona where they make them camp in the desert and eat green bologna. Well, I'll tell you what, I would say, Alpha Fib, that green bologna is exactly a cuisine on death row. I mean, what, peanut butter and jelly, maybe some instant mashed potatoes, maybe, a piece of fruit. What does he get in commissary? Cheetos? Well, he can take those Cheetos and shove them so far up his ass, it winks at him. Because I'm sure Miss Emma is going to be putting stuff on Daddy's. I don't even think they get, does anybody know whether they get commissary on death row? I mean, they shouldn't. Nobody sitting on death row should go and get commissary. That's what I'm talking about. That's a privilege. And that son of a bitch, he don't deserve any privileges. He does not deserve it. Amazon packages. Are you kidding me? What? What's he getting Amazon packages for? What's he getting? Well, what can he get from Amazon that will get into his jail cell there on death row? Give me a break. Hello, Rita Lou. Wonder if reality has set in for Chin yet. Well, I'll tell you what, Rita Lou. It's my understanding that he doesn't think he's getting treated properly on death row. Well, I'll tell you what, that's going to piss some correctional officers off, first and foremost. I'll tell you what, when Donna Adelson started her bullshit while she's in jail waiting on her trial, things got a little heated there. They had to have a hearing where they had the freaking dang sheriffs come in there. You can look it up online. Trying to mess with him and this and that. These dang, these facilities. I mean, Nate Eaton talked about it on one of his vids, talking about death row and everything. It's a facility that's separate from the regular Gen Pop, and then it shows this building where they're supposed to go when they get put to death. Well, I guarantee you, there's cobwebs and dust all on the inside because nobody stepped foot in it. Bad sheet thread count down there. Well, I'll tell you what, Donna Donald, everyone knows what happened to Jeffrey Epstein and his sheets. Who knows what's going to happen to Chad Daybell. Yes, he is, Q. Nate Eaton is wonderful. So is Justin Lum. Have Kay make a special blankie to send to Chud. I'll tell you what, Kathy Mama Bear. I hate to say it, but those blankets that Lori left in the storage unit, she didn't deserve to have them. Pictures of Tylee and JJ. Well, I'll tell you what, they should, somebody should send a blanket to Chad with pictures, big square pictures of men's assholes, with doo-doo coming out of them. And one here, one here, one here. You get Chad used to, the fecal matter. Because that's what Chad... I'm sorry. Chad, we're sending you a fecal matter blanket. Yes, Q. A blanket with pictures of raccoons all over them. The raccoon did it. I mean, this guy. Come on, y'all. Chad Daybell's been damn coddled his whole life. And the irony of it was Tammy Daybell took care of everything. And then he murders her. He had everything in the world going for him. You could just tell by his hands. Remember at his arraignment, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. He doesn't look like he's worked a hard day in his damn life. Oh my gosh, he'll be lucky if they give him a job scrubbing toilets just to pass the time. And folks, make no mistake, you know it and I know it. Doesn't matter what the jail or prison conditions are, whether it's life in prison or death row, being inside of a jail cell will grow you old real quick. We see already all the gray in Chad's hair there for the few years that he sat in Fremont jail over there. It feels so good to yell and laugh to release these emotions, says Fancy Nancy. Alpha Fib XT says his tender fingers will toughen up in prison. Q says, quarter pounder, remember? And his big smile in the mugshot. I wonder what's so funny to him. What else was he going to do? What else was he going to do, girl? He has no other recourse. He's probably, he probably decided to do that because everything's over with and he thinks, oh, well, I'm nearing the end of my multiple probation. I want everybody to know they ain't getting old chatty boy down. I guarantee you, if given the opportunity, there would be other inmates that would get him down on the ground on all fours with force, if you know what I mean. Dear Slug, I think your hands are soft. Sincerely, Bubba. Well, I'll tell you what, just me, on those 4 years, Bubba and Chad and all that, it kind of picked up on the skits there. Well, I want to make an announcement about the, Bubba, i.e. Mr. Wayne, but it's Bubba in those skits. He never made it to death row. He ended up going, he got his life together, Bubba, but we're not talking about the other Bubba, the one that's going to get him in prison. This Bubba, the one that were in the skits, got his life together. He decided he wasn't going to rob any more Burger Kings. His heart was broken because he can't be with his chatty boy anymore. But I'll tell you what, Donna Adelson is going to meet the love of her life, and her name is Greta. And Greta and Donna Adelson are going to become fast friends. They're going to learn a lot about each other in the upcoming weeks, with the September 17th trial coming up and everything. It's just going to, all work itself out. Poor Bubba could not follow Chad to death row. He got his life together and he realized now more than ever that he didn't have to believe Chad's BS about seer stones or seeing beyond the veil or code words or any of that other stuff. Donna actually called and admitted to knowing about it. Right, Q? I mean, she's just going to have to walk it back. Ultimately, the crux of it for OKJ, this Donna Adelson case, is that Charlie, her son, got on the stand and said he had told his mother about the extortion, and his attorney, Dan Rashbaum, elicited that from him, right? Oh, no, the prosecution did, but Dan Rashbaum went along with it. Now Dan Rashbaum is Donna's attorney. Is he going to be ethical and continue that narrative, or is he going to hope jury members don't remember that Charlie told everyone that his mom knew about the extortion? Because the bottom line is if she gets on that stand, or if Dan Rashbaum infers that Donna knew about the extortion, boy, that's not going to line up with any of the evidence. Right. Yes, Q. Wendy is something else. And the state argued that Charlie's testimony was unreliable. That's a cake and eat it too situation. We're going to find out if any of y'all are interested in it. But folks, let me just say this. What hurts me and bothers me the most, and why it riles me up and, it really gets on my nerves big time, is to know that no matter what this appellate lawyer that has been assigned to Chad Daybell, whether it's ineffective assistance of counsel or any other type of appellate issues that they might ask the Idaho Supreme Court there, the bottom line is this cannot be something that these victims' family members are looking forward to. I hope that they understand. I'm sure they do. They're a hell of a lot smarter and more put together about things than KJ. I lose my mind about stuff like this. That's why I don't cover appellate issues. The bottom line is they've got to go on with their life and know that this is all in God's hands and it will work out. That this is just formality, that it's just not, I cannot see, obviously the worst case scenario is it would revert to life in prison. But even then, as many of y'all have stated, sometimes life in prison is worse than death row, because there's only a death row pod with so many people on it. General Pop, as Kathy Mama Bear talked about. That's a whole different ball game. Who knows? Maybe what comes around goes around. We'll meet Chad Daybell here real soon. It is, y'all. Hi, Janelle Murphy. It makes me sick about what the victims' rights, says just me. Sandy Rodriguez says you're hilarious, and I love and enjoy every time you talk. Oh, Sandy, thank you for such kind words. Okay, Jay, just get it out there. If I could say anything in summary of all of this, it would be that it's got to be one of two things. That John Pryor left out mitigation because he knew it would become an appellate issue, or John Pryor left out mitigation and the state and Judge Boyce covered their ass on it somehow in the court proceedings. It's one of two, because ultimately, y'all, he did leave out mitigation. Nobody came in there to beg for Chad Daybell's life. Chad Daybell didn't allocute either, which would have been a form of mitigation. Judge Boyce asked him. He said, this would be your time to allocute. Do you want to do that? And Chad goes, no. But he also said on the end of that, this is for mitigation. And he didn't. He didn't. At least Lori got up there and tried to talk it all away, which made it that much worse on her. Remember Judge Boyce? He says, you went down that rabbit hole and apparently you're still there. So, one way or the other, we're going to find out about it. And I'm confident that Chad Daybell will have it hard the rest of his life. And when I say hard, y'all, you know what I'm talking about. That's going to be so hard on him. It might even bring tears to his eyes. You know what I'm talking about? It's going to be hard as a rock. Hello, Hope Grace. Oh, Q says Pryor did bum me out. Lori's final testimony inflamed Judge Boyce. That's right, Vix Tags. If you go back and look on cases of interest in Idaho, you'll see where the appeal of Lori was filed and the questions that the appellate courts have to answer. None of it in there was ineffective assistance of counsel. Well, we just now, I guarantee you, that's front and center in terms of an appellate issue for Chad Daybell. This whole thing about Chad not getting treated good in prison, well, what the hell? He might as well just get used to it. Get used to it. If you watch the beginning of Shrek, all that's glitter is gold. That's John Pryor. He's Shrek. Shrek with a flask, Q. All right, y'all. Well, I don't know that I've answered anything. All I know is I was venting. I want to thank y'all all for being here. Thank y'all so much for your time. We'll get back together over the weekend. I've got a few things that I've been researching about Donna Adelson. I'm hoping Cresha's will listen to this or is listening now. Cresha, I love you. You still have my cell phone number. Give me a call sometime or send me a text. And hi, X-Files. Kay Young says, you need a cowgirl hat. Cowgirl, baby. With the sun and the sun shining. Cowgirl, baby. I can still feel like I'm far away. I don't even know the words. I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. I love you. Kathy, Mama Berry, Lily Jahan, Rita Lou, Fancy Nancy, you're the best. Janelle Murphy, Q, K Young, Alpha Fem X-Teen, X-Files, Awesome Sassy Sauce, hello there. Janelle Murphy, Donna, we love you. Tell your mom I said hello. Let's see who else. I don't want to leave anybody else. Hope Grace, Janelle Murphy. I think I said Janelle. Pam V. Yes, Pam V. But Pam V, I'm going to end on that. Pam V says, I've heard this court stuff will go on for years. Sit back and relax. And I'll add to that, Pam V, to all the Rays out there. I love you and keep on looking.